Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining today. Today we have the technical overview of the IQ Pro, joined by Joel, Mark. Going to be doing a great presentation here, kind of getting into the nitty gritty and details of the IQ Pro. Just some housekeeping items first. We are recording this. We're also going to be posting this on YouTube, but this is an interactive demonstration as well. So please get into the chat. We're going to have some polling questions coming up soon. But get into the chat and ask some questions. These guys have all of the information that you would need. They're going to outline most of it on this very technical demonstration here. Also have some of our TAMs in the background answering technical questions in the live chat as well. So looking forward to that. We also have a giveaway scheduled for after this webinar. We're going to be giving 5 IQ Pros away. It's going to be randomly selected from people that are attending now. The marketing team will get back in touch with you via email after the presentation begins. To start off, we just wanted to run a few quick questions by you guys. We really appreciate all of the data that we're getting from you folks on answering some of these questions. So first question here, what hybrid panels do you currently install? And this is choose all that you are installing right now. If you're doing DSC Power Series, if you're installing the IQ4, please let us know. And it is racking up. Wow, we got a lot of Qualys fans here. That's great, and a lot of DSC fans. Well, I think you're gonna like the IQ Pro for what it's sitting there. Cool. I think we're just about done with that. Okay, another quick question we have for you guys before we go live. How long does it take on average to train new technicians on a hybrid panel? And this could be if you guys are hiring on just technicians, or you have sales reps that also do installations as well. Anybody who has hands on a hybrid panel.
I've done my fair share of that.
Training or installing the hybrid panels?
Oh, both. Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're just about wrapped with this one. Excellent. And finally, and this one I think kind of a majority are gonna say yes to this, but have you ever used addressable loops before? And the yes numbers are flying.
That is good to know.
And if you don't know what addressable loops are, no worries. We're going to get into that as well, some of the process and what it is and how it functions in commercial. Okay, I think we're about done with that. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, with those poll questions wrapped up, Joel, I think we're going to jump right into the presentation there with Joel and Mark. If you guys want to introduce yourselves as well, kind of get into the basis of what we're going to be running through today, that'd be great.
Sure. So my name is Joel Van Valkenburg. We're going to be running through, this is a technical presentation of the IQ Pro. I did want to start off by saying this. Last week, Jason and Dave hosted a product overview. So this is more of a technically driven webinar. So we're gonna have some assumptions that maybe you guys attended that webinar already and got an idea of what the IQ Pro encompasses. If you didn't, somebody's going to post a link to that YouTube video in the chat, so that way you can go and watch that afterwards. So that way, you can get an all-encompassing view of the IQ Pro. And then Mark, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, so I'm the technical account manager in the Pacific Northwest region. Yeah, so today we're going through the IQ Pro technical webinar. On the screen here, you see on the left the plastic enclosure of the IQ Pro. So all of the antennas are inside of the plastic enclosure there. On the right was the metal enclosure with the plastic structure on the top with the antennas. So the idea of this panel is combining the IQ Panel 4 and Power Series Neo 128 zone panel into one for the flexibility and ease of use of programming up a true hardwired panel that also can do wireless, so a hybrid panel. So with that, some of the main features: 128 zones, up to 1,000 user codes, Z-Wave with the full launch version of the panel, and the flexibility of ordering the panel with the ability to do some of the legacy radio frequencies in it. So you'd have to choose which legacy radio frequency you want to use between 319.5 megahertz, 345, and 433, or you choose PowerG only version. And we support up to 128 MX addressable devices on it. And then we allow the IQ remote touchscreen to pair to this over Wi-Fi. And then we're working on a IQ remote PowerG keypad that's shown there on the screen that should be available here in the next month or two. Yeah. Next slide.
I'll take it from here, Mark.
Okay.
So basically, what we want to show you guys is all of the different technologies that this product supports. So the IQ Pro, just like the IQ4, IQ2, LTE, Wi-Fi built in, supports all PowerG devices, supports Z-Wave technology, Ethernet. But what we've also added to the support structure of this is the MX addressable technology as well as Core Bus. So we can not only do what we could do on the IQ2, IQ4 platforms, but now we're able to encompass some newer technologies and some legacy technologies back from the Power Series Neo side. So, and when we talk Core Bus, by the way, I use that term, but Mark, ask me what Core Bus is.
What is Core Bus?
Core Bus is this. It's 4-wire, right? So this is that legacy infrastructure that we have from any other system that's out there. It's just a term that we brought on with the Power Series Neo. So all of our hardwire zone expanders, hardwire keypads from the Neo side, power supplies, wireless transceivers, all of those modules are compatible with this platform. I listed the totals on there. I know you guys probably seen this slide last week, but I wanted you to be able to see what this supports total of those different devices. It's also listed in the installation manual as well. So when you go through and you're saying, hey, I wonder how many hardwire keypads in total I can have on the system, the answer is 16, right? So we can do the Neo touchscreen keypads, or we can do the traditional LCD style. And one of the other things that's cool about this is I showed on that a couple slides back that we support PowerG, right? Well, the PowerG is built into this platform. When you buy it, it comes with the PowerG transceiver built in. But like the Neo and the Power Series Pro, if you need to remotely mount an external transceiver, you have that ability. All you have to do is wire an RF keypad or the HSM2 host directly to the Core Bus. And what'll happen is the panel recognizes it. It'll prompt you in the installer interface that the panel is going to power cycle, and when it comes back online, it'll automatically switch over to that external device. The benefit of that, guys, is that it allows you to remotely mount it, right? When we can remotely mount a wireless transceiver or wireless host, it's going to greatly reduce the coverage range because we're not locating it in maybe an IDF room or something of that nature where we have to go through some extra infrastructure or walls. So Mark, why don't you take over here, buddy?
Yeah, so here on this slide, a few things to point out. So it's 18 VDC coming in, so DC, so polarity specific with the power adapter. And then all of the
That's a big change. Can I interrupt you? Sorry to interrupt. That's a big change from what we've done traditionally in the past, by the way. So if you like Neo was 16 volt AC, right? So that's why we really want to be specific on this transformer is 18 volt DC, a lot like what the PowerG hardwire to wireless module is. Sorry to interrupt there.
No worries. And the Bell output supports 12 volt, 700 up to 700 milliamps of current draw. And then the Core Bus and aux power has its own 700 milliamps that it supports as well. Another big thing to highlight is there's no phone line on here, no ring and tip. So a lot of phone lines have issues nowadays. Copper is old and outdated technology. So we're moving towards cell and Wi-Fi or Ethernet.
There you go. So we still have multiple paths back to the central station.
So with this, we have the IQ installer interface that can be downloaded from the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. So this gives the flexibility for programming up the system. You scan a QR code right on the plastic shroud there inside of the panel for ease of use, very menu driven. So it's going to be much easier to train a technician on how to program it up when you look at it as like a IQ2 panel or IQ4 menu structure. You don't have to learn this hidden menu structure that most hardwired panels have. So we're bringing that to life, the hidden menu structure.
Yeah, I think, Mark, and just to emphasize on that more, we really aim to make this as intuitive as possible. Like at the very beginning of this, when Johnny was running the polls, I mentioned about having programmed many systems myself, many hybrid systems myself, and trained, I mean, over the years, maybe thousands of people on Power Series Neo and legacy Power Series. One of the things that always rang clear in my head is if you don't use it, you lose it, right? I could train a tech today on Neo and they would know it, and they don't see it in 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months down the road. It's not as intuitive as it was when they were sitting in the classroom, right? Because they're not sitting in front of it. So you'll see, we're going to do a live demonstration here. I love live demonstrations, so they never go wrong. We're going to do a live demonstration of programming from the interface here in a little bit, so that way you guys can actually get a peek of how we really wanted to make this as intuitive as possible. So if you have a technician who's never done this, you can hand it to him, and with confidence, he can get the system programmed. Mark, sorry to interrupt there.
No worries. So currently today, we do have this panel soft launch, and the soft launch part numbers have NZW at the end of them, so no Z-Wave on the panels that can be purchased from distribution today. The firmware on those panels is 4.2.0, which the IQ installer interface you use is that icon up on the top center that has a white bar at the bottom that says Pro 4.2.0. So you can use that IQ installer interface and upgrade the panel firmware today to 4.2.1, and then you would pivot over to the next slide, which shows the full launch version of IQ installer interface, which is a fully blue icon there. And next slide.
Well, I don't know if everyone, listen, let me point something out here.
Yeah.
Those squiggly boxes are for you guys to scan with your phones. Just so, like if you take out your phone, yes. Open up the camera and point it at it, it'll take you right to it. So I just wanted to point that out to anyone who was wondering what that squiggly box was.
100%.
Open the camera on your phone, it'll take you right to it. So, awesome. I wanted to talk specifically about the addressable loops and the technology we're utilizing. It's called MX, okay? This technology is very different from legacy addressable technology. You guys have all heard addressable for years. It's not, we didn't invent this, right? this concept, it's been around for a very long time, but we're doing some things a little bit different. And so I kind of want to give you an idea of how this is operating, why we believe it's better, and hopefully you will as well. So the first thing is it uses a different type of technology. Instead of legacy addressable, use something called amplitude modulation. We use something called frequency shift key. Now, the reason why that's important is because amplitude modulation left a lot of room for electromagnetic interference, right? Meaning you have to be really careful where you run the wires. In some industrial places, that wasn't always the easiest thing to do, but it also lent itself to a lot of false alarms and a lot of chasing a rabbit around a warehouse, trying to figure out what was going on with the circuit if you were having issues. Whereas frequency shift key, because of the way it manages itself, it doesn't lend itself for the RF interference or electromagnetic interference. Now, what's great about that too what's great about MX as well is we can also run on 40 volt DC rather than like a 24 volt DC, which is pretty predominant back in the day with older addressable technologies. And with higher voltage means longer wire runs. So now, and I forgot about something. The frequency shift key also, because of it is less likely and susceptible to interference, we're not very particular on the type of wire you use. So back in the day with some AML style, that required you to use a shielded cable because of electromagnetic interference and things of that nature. Whereas with MX, we don't have to. We don't have to use shielded cable. You can basically use any type of cable that's already there. If you want to run just standard 18.2, have at it. You're more than welcome to do so. And we can support up to 124 devices on on your loop. So it's a really great technology for those types of applications and existing infrastructures, right? So with that, we have a bunch of MX devices that are currently out. Mark pointed something out yesterday. He got a question from a dealer that he wanted to emphasize in this. Mark, what was the thing that you wanted to emphasize? Do you remember?
He wanted to emphasize that these are not wireless devices on the screen here. These are hardwired on the addressable loop. So like what Joel was mentioning, 2 wires get connected. Yes, Joel's got it right there to show the guts. They look very similar to our PowerG wireless sensors, but they are not.
Exactly. Now, what I like about that too is over the years, I would get this quite a bit with customers in PowerG, and they go, man, I got this, this glass break, it's wireless, it's in the living room, but I got a pre-wire in the bedroom, and I'm putting up, the AC100, and they look completely different. The customers wondering why they look completely different, whereas now we have some consistency between technologies that they look and feel and are the same type of detection technology, right? So glass breaks, ceiling mount motion detectors, so we got 360 motions, door window sensors, all of that good stuff. So we can cover the, pretty much any type of application you're looking for. Yep.
Joel, how do I know how many of these devices I can put on the loop?
Oh, I'm gonna call Mark Segway. Marky segueing me into the next thing. Okay, so something very important with loop technology is current calculations, right? So, and even more than that, it's also its distance, its current drop. It's a lot that goes into this. That can be overwhelming if you're unfamiliar with the technology, if you've never done it before. So we actually have a current, I'm going to read it because I always get this wrong. The way it's worded is a worst case loop current calculator. That's a mouthful. So basically what it is all you have to do is punch in the values. Hey, I have, X amount of glass breaks. I have X amount of motion detectors. I have X amount of doors, so on and so forth. And it will automatically give you those worst case scenarios of if X amount go into alarm, how many milliamps of current it's going to draw, basically telling you what you need to prepare for. So squiggly box time, guys. All right, get out your phones, point your cameras, go ahead and that will take you right to that current loop calculator. I said it wrong again, but there you go. It'll take you right there. You can download it. It's an Excel sheet. It'll help you build out all those jobs in the future. Okay, so keep going with the MX stuff. All right, I'm going to keep going here with the MX. There's a lot to it. We also have the ability to wire what's called low power mode and high power mode. So low power mode means that we wire the module, and the addressable interface module is the HSM3105. Okay, so this wires to the core bus. It is a core bus module. It's something we're introducing with this panel. Low power mode will support up to 67 milliamps of device. So that's not a lot, but by the way, those devices draw very little current. So it's in perspective, right? Now, if you do your current calculations and you notice, hey, look, I've got way too many devices. I need to add more power, or I'm exceeding this value. Hang on, I got an option for you. Okay, low power mode wires right to the core bus. If you exceed that, then we can wire it in what's called high power mode. Okay, so this utilizes the NEO power supplies or high current output modules. So either the HSM2204 or the HSM2300. And basically what we're doing is we're going to keep it on the bus, keep the HSM3105 module on the core bus for supervision and enrollment, all that good stuff. But we're gonna actually power it directly from the power supply. So what that does is it gives that module now the ability to go up to 243 milliamps. So and now we can power devices well into the hundreds, right? So this is an option for you if you're running into those applications that require more than what low power mode will operate. Now, out of the box by default, when you enroll the 3105 into the panel, it's set up as low power mode. Okay, I'll show you this later, but this is a configuration option in programming. You go into the module itself, you'll notice it says low power mode, and switch it to high power mode. Again, we're trying to make this easy. Hit high power mode, then hit save. So that is other than the wiring and the enrollment, the only thing you would have to do to tell it it's in high power mode is just pull up the module and switch it over to, with it in programming. Any questions come up on that? No? Doing good? All right. I'm not going to let you answer. Okay. So the other ways that we have some advantages here, in my opinion, with this type of technology is we can do this in 2 different ways. We can do what's called a spur, a 2-wire spur, or a 4-wire loop. Okay, so a spur is if you go into an application that the wiring is not completely around, right? So it doesn't go from one side of the building all the way back and come back into the panel, right? That would be what's called a loop. This is called a spur. So it would go, oh wait, it just goes off to this side of the building and ends. It stops at a device. Instead of having to run another wire, another pair all the way back to the panel, I can still utilize this and configure it into the spur mode, okay? Now, if I did have that loop that went around the entire building, that infrastructure that was there, I can wire it into the loop configuration. Okay, now what's great about this is you'll see in my diagram here, we have something called, and I don't have one, I thought I had one sitting in that hand, but I don't. We have these modules called the line isolators. So what's great is when you're set up in a loop configuration, you have these isolators. If you like get a short or an open or break in the wire, what the isolators will do will shut down that part of the circuit and still allow the rest of the devices to transmit until you're able to get out there and run your service call and make sure it's all working correctly and all that good stuff. So you got a couple of different options as far as the programs. There is one other option I'm not going to show you on this slide because it takes too much time, but you can also do a loop spur configuration, but I'll leave that one for your trainer when he trains you in person. How about that? I'm not going to take too much wind out of the sails with the guys who are going to train you in person. Now, again, by default, out of the box, it is set when you enroll it for a 2-wire spur. If you're going to do a 4-wire loop, pull up the MX3105 module and just change the configuration from a 2-wire spur to a 4-wire loop. Hit save, done. Okay. Now, this is like the part that where it gets fun, because this is live demonstration. So earlier Johnny mentioned, he goes, you know, hey, we're doing this live and it'll be posted on YouTube after the fact. That's a variable, by the way, because if this goes bad, if this part goes bad, it won't be on YouTube. So that really depends on how this part goes. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to get, there we go. This is also another nerve-wracking piece, is whenever you share your phone. Oh, God. So, okay. Here is the IQ installer app. And hopefully everyone pointed their phone at those squiggly boxes. So your phone also has this. And what I'm going to do, and by the way, if you haven't noticed behind me, that setup is my IQ Pro. It's pretty complex. Those are all keypads that are wired to it. I've got zone expanders that are inside of that cabinet, and power supplies, MX modules. I've got some other Power G stuff here. There's a lot. Okay, so we're gonna actually program that. I did some stuff prior to you guys joining, so that way it would you know, we could actually basically do the program from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the IQ installer app, and remember what Mark said. The one with the white bar at the bottom that says IQ Pro 4.20 is for the soft launch version, okay? The IQ installer that's all blue is anything 4.21 or higher. And a little peek behind the curtain, it's going to be used for other stuff too. Wink, wink, right? We got some other stuff in the works that'll be used for that as well. So from here, now imagine you've never touched this panel before, you've never programmed before, your technician has never programmed before. You're going to just tell them download it. They're going to go ahead and click on start, and it's going to kind of guide you, okay, what to do. It's going to tell you, hey, scan this QR code, right? It's guiding you. So we're going to click scan QR code, and then I'm going to bring my phone over here, and of course, there we go. I grabbed all the information, okay? Now I'm going to click on continue. Now it's going to tell me there's a link button on the panel, okay? I need to press that button for 1 second, and I'm going to get up and do that now. All right, so the LED on the panel starts to blink. You can't see it from your perspective, but I can. I'm going to wait for it to start flashing blue. Give it a moment. What that's doing is it's turning on the panel's access point. So I'm actually directly, and you'll notice here, this is the panel's access point SSID. There we go. And let's just do that with my finger. Come on, you. There we go. So I'm connecting to the panel's access point. Now, the very first time you do this, the default installer and dealer codes are going to be the same as an IQ4. Mark, what's that? What's your default installer?
Installer code is 1111. Dealer code is 2222. So you have to change that when you first get logged in here, right out of the box.
Yeah. So part of our cybersecurity protocol is no default codes. Okay. So the first time you type in 2222, it'll accept it, but then it's going to prompt you to change your dealer code. I happen to change mine to one that I would remember pretty easily. It's 5555. And then we launch right into the dashboard. Now, before I go any further on this, I wanted to just say something. The very first time you launch into this panel, it will look like this. It'll go right into the installation wizard. Again, if you've never had a technician touch this before, if you've never done it yourself before, this will walk you through step-by-step connecting to Wi-Fi. It'll check the system, make sure all the daughter cards are working properly, tell you what you actually have enrolled. If you have a template in alarm.com, it'll pull down that template for you at the same time. It'll allow you to auto-enroll all of your devices, blah, 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 blah. It'll do everything for you. It'll walk you through all of those steps. And then once you're done, you can actually just go ahead and start doing other things. Now, I'm going to avoid the wizard today, because I want to spend some time, and we are short on time. This is like trying to, put 15 pounds in a 10-pound bag today. It's a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time. So I want to get out of the wizard, and we can click exit. Okay, now what this is prompting me right now, this is something cool that we had our team add, is it's saying, hey, I see that you're connected to the panel's access point. Mark, access point range about 30 feet, give or take. Okay. So what that means is I'm stuck here in the room with that, right? If the app, the interface sees that we are paired over the AP, and it sees that the panel is communicating over the customer's network, it will ask us or prompt us, hey, do you want to connect to the same network? So that way you can then roam around and program. We're not going to be tethered to the range of the panel's AP. I can then walk around, and hey, if you got IQ Wi-Fi 6 installed, right, mesh network, you got some range there. You can roam around the building at that point and not have to worry about losing connection with the system. But for time-saving purposes, I'm going to click on no. I'm going to stay on AP here because it takes about 30 seconds, give or take. But I don't want to get into it. All right, Mark, go ahead and break down what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so here on the top blue rectangle box, we can see the Wi-Fi symbol connected because it's green, and then you have cell and AC and then battery. You hit that arrow down caret that Joel just popped down, and you can see a little bit more details about it. The battery's charging at 100%, cellular's on AT&T. Joel's IQ Pro panel's connected to IQ Wi-Fi 6 guest. And then we can see what firmware the panel is on as well. It's on the full launch firmware of 4.2.1N. Down below, you have your devices information. So by default selected for security, we can see all of the core bus devices that are on, 10, and then there's one that has a trouble condition because it's in the red section there. And Joel has 6 MX devices that are tied into a system. And then the middle tab there is Wi-Fi. If you had a IQ remote that's connected up over Wi-Fi, it would be showing on that tab. And then his last tab is Z-Wave for any of his Z-Wave automation devices. He has a light that is programmed into the panel.
So these are quick snapshots and quick filters also of these devices, right? So if I were like, click on Core Bus, it would automatically show me all of my Core Bus devices. And notice that filter is applied there, right? So I'm going to go back here for just a moment. We'll get into that. We'll show you more information. But as Mark pointed out too, like this red is showing me a trouble condition. If I click specifically on that, it's showing me what is in trouble. It's telling me the trouble condition. I can click on it and get even more information. It's telling me it's in tamper, right? So I can go ahead and resolve that. But this dashboard is great as a quick snapshot. We're going to dive more into this, by the way.
So here's the events tab, the events page. This will show you the 200 latest events that have happened in the panel. You can see it's got a P1 in that box. That means partition 1 is what that is pertaining to. On the right side, you can see it's zone number 99. And then on the top right corner of this page, you can go into a filter section to filter the last 5 days. What event type do you want to look for? A trouble condition, search for a specific date if you want, a trouble condition, and apply that. The W2W, disconnect, tamper, things of that nature. Joel, how can I see more than 200 events?
Dude, I was just gonna say, I hear the questions in the background right now. Oh, did he only say 200? That's like, oh man, that's not enough for anything. Okay, you're not, right? Where do they go? They go to alarm.com, right? How many events does alarm.com store for you? Thousands, right? So all of those, if it's already gone from here, you will see them in the alarm.com history. So you get access to thousands of events. Man, I could hear them in the background, right? So, all right. So we're going to move on next to our configuration tab. So, we started on dashboard, moved to events. Now we're at configuration here, right? Configuration, if you look at this, anyone who has any experience, and I know there are a bunch of people in the room who do have experience with IQ panel, IQ2, IQ4, recognizes this. This goes back to what we stated at the, a few times already. We wanted consistency. We wanted ease of installation. We wanted this to just be easy. I mean, again, easy. We want it to mimic a keypad. So think of your phone as your keypad. That's why we're saying interface, because a keypad is an interface, right? This is that. So you're thinking of your phone as a keypad. We're programming from it. And from here, you have things like, user management, the about menu where you get all the information from the, about the panel, software, IMEI, all that good stuff. Reboot and power down. You got your Wi-Fi, which, by the way, I wanted to click on this and show you, because you remember earlier when I talked about switching over from the panel AP to be able to communicate over the full network. Well, if you said no, but you wanted to manually do it, you can just come into the Wi-Fi and click connect me, and then I can migrate back over to the customer's connection rather than the panel AP. So you got some options here, right? Oh, there's one thing I wanted to point out, something I really, really like about this. Mark, what's this?
That is a search area. Search everywhere.
Yes.
Global search.
What do you want to search for? Give me something to search for.
Siren.
Okay, so we're typing the word siren. Oh, there it is right there. So this searched the entire system for the word siren, right? And let's say, for instance, I wanted to turn off the panel sirens and put it into installer test mode while I'm working on it, right? I don't have to know where that is. I can, and there's some, look, man, there's some features that you're going to use not very often, and maybe you don't know where they are. Instead of having to search every little place and nook and cranny, you can just type it in right there up at the top right hand corner, and it'll take you right to it. So then going back to this really quick, we also have the upgrade software, same as IQ4. You can upgrade over Wi-Fi. You can upgrade over panel AP. You can push down from alarm.com. We also have multi-partitions. As Mark said at the very beginning when he was going over the overview, this is a partition system, right? I can go in here and I can turn on the partitions, and now I can enable partitions, right? I can assign different devices to partitions. Something I want to point out to you guys, early on when we were doing testing, I had dealers running into this as and just not realizing it. Especially on multi-partition systems, it can be easy. If the system is armed or in alarm, you can't program it. And I'm talking partitions, by the way, not just the system. So if a partition is in alarm, you're not going to be able to program through the app. A very quick way of identifying the status of the partitions is coming into this partition section and look at that little shield. That little shield will tell you the status of that partition. So right now, they're ready, right? They're all disarmed, they're ready. If they were armed, they would show red or orange, or armed and night arming, it would show blue. So they'll give you full status of all of the partitions right from this menu. So very quick and easy way to just see what's going on. All of your sound options, I talked power down, your dealer branding section, and then installation, right? This is your meat and potatoes section. Mark, go ahead and take it from here, buddy.
Yeah, so from here you have your regular dealer settings like you're familiar with the IQ Panel 4 for those of you that have used the Qolsys panel. And system log area, if you have an issue with the panel for whatever reason, hopefully that doesn't pop up, but if you reach out to your technical account manager, probably we may get to a point where we need to upload the panel log so that we can have engineering look at it. So that's why we have system logs there. In sirens and alarms, you can put it in installer test mode to silence those sirens for 30 minutes, and then it will automatically turn them back on. And then in security and arming, you have options like your delay timers, entry exit delay timers, auto bypass, auto stay, things of that nature to drill into.
Awesome. So that leads us with devices, right? This is where most of the technicians are going to spend the majority of their time. And again, look very familiar to IQ2, IQ4. What kind of devices are we talking? Security sensors, Wi-Fi devices. This is new, unless you've done a W2W with an IQ2 or IQ4, is PGM outputs. So PGMs come from the DSE world, right? It's basically a programmable output. You're like programming for what? Anything you want, almost. I mean, do you want a PGM to follow a zone status? All right, well, let's do this. And by the way, where are the PGMs? Well, you got 4 on board. So you have 4 PGMs on board automatically. And then we have other modules that have PGMs on them as well. We have the 2208, which are PGM expansion cards. We have the 2204, which is a high current output module that has 4. The W2W, which I have right there, that also has PGMs. So if those are enrolled, you will get PGMs. You'll get more PGMs, right? So you can click on this and then select add a new rule. I've already added one rule to have the PGM1 follow the office window for 5 seconds. So it'll do what it's supposed to do for 5 seconds. So in this case, like, hey, you got a customer that says, when that window opens, that's a weird application, but if the window opens, I want this strobe to flash for 5 seconds. We can do that, right? You can get very creative with how your PGMs react. And something that's different from the DSE side of things is you can stack these rules on top of each other. I don't recall if we ever reached a limit. I think one day Neil got curious and just kept going. And I don't know what that final number was that he ever reached, but I know it was way higher than 1, which is
I gave up at 19. I couldn't come up with anything else.
There you go. So those are
another use case of a PGM output would be like if you want to follow the arming state, wire up a red LED light to one of the PGMs. And when the system is armed, that red LED turns on. Now you can visually see the system in that armed status state.
So now everyone knows that Mark's smarter than me because I gave some weird scenario, and he gave one that actually works for everyday applications. All right, Z-Wave, really quick. We got Z-Wave devices, Z-Wave options. This is where we can come in here and we can actually, up at the top right, you can send a clear command to a Z-Wave node. By the way, best practice, right? Always clear first. We can add a Z-Wave device right from here. Something else that's cool that we built into this, and it's also in the dashboard. I don't know if you noticed it, but we can actually, the installer can command these function so he can test them right from the installer interface. So he can tell whether, if they're on, if they're off, all that good stuff. And I can hear this thing clicking over here by me. I should have plugged the lamp into it so you could see it turn on and turn off, but didn't think ahead. So Z-Wave, right? We move on from Z-Wave, we go to security sensors. Okay. Now this is where we program everything. We program all of our devices. Now I have not done anything more than what I had in this panel prior. So what I mean by that is I had the panel itself and its inputs, and I had the MX enrolled. The reason why I didn't want to, I had the MX previously enrolled is because it takes a little bit of time. It can take up to 5 minutes, especially if you have it in a loop configuration. I didn't know how much time we would have on this demonstration. Plus, I didn't want to sit here twiddling my thumbs for 5 minutes while we're waiting for all of our, this is a live demonstration, folks. Give me a break, right? So, but I do have a lot of other stuff that needs to be enrolled. You see, I got all these other keypads here behind me. I've got hardwired zone expanders that are wired up. I've got PowerG devices that are sitting in front of me. How do I enroll these, Joel? Mark, any guess? How would I enroll?
Maybe a blue plus symbol
Hey,
icon?
we click that plus, and then what are our options here? Where would you steer me, sir?
Probably auto learn.
All right. So I like the way he thinks. It's making things easy for me. And then we click Start Auto Learn. Now, what we're about to do is when we go into Auto Learn, it's just for Power G devices, right, Mark?
Core bus,
Ah.
keypads, secondary keypads, anything wired up to your core bus.
Yep. Auto enroll does everything. Okay. It allows for core bus enrollment. Like you guys can see, it's finding all the keypads. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but these things are chiming all behind me. It'll enroll my zone expanders, my power supplies, my MX loop. It'll start the MX acquisition. Okay. So that can take up to 5 minutes for it to go out and search the entire loop and bring in all of the devices. Again, this could be a couple thousand feet worth of wire that it has to scan. It will also allow me to auto enroll my Power G devices. Sure, a bunch of you folks have seen this before. That's a 9303. I pop the battery in, give it a moment. It'll pop up here. Add in. Add some more Power G stuff. There we go. Hit OK. All you have to do is acknowledge the Power G devices. I'm going to add another one. There's that one. All right, how about an SRF device? I've got some SRF in here. Oh, there's that. Okay. So I'm just enrolling everything, and it's still scanning. Okay. Now, I look at this list of everything that I enrolled. I'm just going to keep going. I just enrolled. How many devices did I grab? Let's see. I'm up at the 93. All right, let's grab more. Hold on. Let's see if I can get a W2W one here. Oh, there's that. There's my hardwired to wireless Power G module. We'll enroll that guy. It'll pop up here in a moment as well. Now you're noticing it's telling you some information about these devices, right? It's telling you a default label. I know it's hard to see in the white mode of the interface here, but it's also showing you a device image. So it's telling you it's a keypad, but it's telling you that it's not configured. So we can go through and we can actually configure these devices from here. And what do I mean by configure? I mean, tell it how I want it to work. So I'm going to go in and let's say I'm going to scroll back up to the top. And keypad 1, if I click on that guy. Yep.
Hey, Joel, first things first, there was 2 things I think that are key here, especially since you're on a keypad and you're about to answer it anyway. Can you use the keypad zones? Look at that right there. Good timing. And somebody says, and somebody in the chat wanted to let us know you should lay off the energy drinks. They're getting tired watching you.
If you only knew how much I was sweating right now, it's insane. Too much information, right? Here we go. So we can now program this keypad for whatever we want to do. So in this case, I want keypad 1 to be on what? Partition 1, partition 2. Do you want it to be on both? This is something new, folks. We can do global keypads, right? So I can assign this to all 8 partitions if I want. I can assign it to partition 2, partition 4. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need for your application, right? We'll click save at the end here. As Neil said, if I need to use the keypad input, I hit enabled. Right? Nope, I hit enable, and it will automatically fall to the next available zone. Okay, so whatever's next in line, that's where it'll end up. And what's cool too is the default zone label will say keypad 1 input, so that way you know which zone it is. Okay, so we're gonna keep going, and it's telling you the source type. So I know this is a core bus keypad. When you're done, do not forget to hit save, otherwise it's all for naught. So that's our auto roll or our auto learn. Okay, now I'm gonna click stop. It's telling me, hey, you've got other devices that aren't configured yet. You sure? That's fine. We can configure these in another spot. I'm gonna stop. Let's go back. Yes, I want to exit. Okay. Now, this is our sensor page. Okay, we showed this briefly earlier when we started from the dashboard, right? Essentially, the dashboard gets you here, but in a quicker way. But and the dashboard also adds filters. So by the way, if I go back to my dashboard, you'll notice that I have a bunch more icons here. Okay, now you're looking at these, go, oh man, he's got a lot of trouble conditions. I'm doing this on purpose. I have trouble conditions on purpose for the demonstration, folks. Don't worry about the trouble conditions. They're there for a reason. Okay, so if I click on 2 for my MX, I can see what those trouble conditions are. And I can also clear those out too. Or I can click up on the top and go to the filters and add those filters back if I'd like. If I only want to see my core bus devices, I click on core bus. If I only want to see devices that are assigned to a partition 2 or the status, right? You can do that and just click apply. I'm not going to worry about those filters right now because I want to talk about specifically zone programming and some new things that we've added to terminology wise. Okay, so first and foremost, I did want to point out zone 1. Mark, tell me what zone 1 is.
It is the panel itself for supervising the panel.
So the panel is the panel. The panel, right?
Yeah.
It's zone 1 is the panel. Okay, so everything after that is everything else. The panel is always zone 1. Okay. Cannot be changed, cannot be edited, but well, it can be edited for a couple different things. You can do things like change your charging options. You can change the partition. So by default, it's partition 1. If you want it, really where this is important, guys, is if you wanted to assign the bell to multiple partitions, the main bell on the panel, you can just by selecting those partitions. So that's one way of doing that. Okay, and then we'll go back here. I want to come back here. All right, so by default, our first input on the panel is input 1, right? Zone 2. Now, that's by default, okay? It is showing me my status and the partition. If I want to change this, now I've already given it a label of office window, and I assigned it to partition 2 earlier, so I could show partition 2. So this is a bad example, Joel. We'll choose another zone. We'll choose zone 3, and we'll go in here and we'll click edit. All right, and from here, I want to change this to partition 3 and turn it off in partition 1. I don't need it on in multiple partitions for this application. And we want to change the sensor type to
Did you want to save that to partition 3?
Oh, yeah, I missed that, didn't I? Save. There we go. I stressed on it earlier and I didn't do it. How about that? Why I'm a teacher and not a doer. All right, so the other thing you can do from here is your sensor group type. After you program the sensor type itself, is we change the group. This is, I really like this, is the input. So we can change it from, by default, it's set to single end of line. We can do normally closed, normally open, or double end of line. And if you don't want it to report, but you don't want to change all the programming, maybe you got an issue with the detector or the wiring, you want to come back to it at another time, you can click on disable if you'd like. That's like, if you think DSC, right, that would be like turning it off in all partitions, right? Or nulling out the zone definition, I guess. And it tells you the hardwire input there, and the source is core bus. And then when we're done, we just click save. Oh, you know what? I didn't change the zone label. Let's change that zone label really quick. Sensor name, we'll give it a, what do we want to call it? We'll call it, some of these pop up automatically. And by the way, we, just like the IQ4, we do also have the option for default for commercial labels. Out of the box, it's going to look like this. We'll call it dining room glass break. And then just hit save and done. Okay. Now, I wanted to show something. Also, I want to introduce a couple new terms called a child sensor and a parent sensor. Okay. Now, by default, when you fire up the panel, you have the onboard 8 inputs that take up the these options, or these inputs here are zones 2 through 9 will be the 8 inputs that are on the panel. The zone 9 is a cabinet tamper, so that way you know if someone takes the lid off the cabinet. Let's say, you know what, I'm not going to use input 8 zone 9, so I want to delete that. I can swipe there, or if I go in, I can select delete. Okay, and it's gone.
So do
So
I have to
notice-
master? You have to master reset the panel now to get that back?
Nope, absolutely not. And so that's a great question. So why do you ask that, Mark? Has someone do that before? So now zone 9 is gone. So a lot of folks would go, okay, so what I do is just go into auto enroll. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And by the way, we can do the same thing. Like if I wanted to take this zone expander and I'm only going to use, let's say, the first 4 inputs. So I could actually swipe and delete everything after that, okay? I can remove them. How do I add them back? That's the big thing. Okay, so this is where the parent term and child term come into play. So like, for instance, if I click back on the panel is the parent to everything. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you see all of the children to the parent. The children to the panel are everything, okay? It's not only the zones on the board, but it's telling you the keypads, the zone expanders, the power supplies, all the MX devices that are enrolled. If I want to add a child sensor back to this parent, the panel, right, the onboard zones, all I have to do is go into that module, click the plus sign, add a child sensor. And if it were multiple, I could actually choose which input I wanted to re-enroll. So in this case, it knows it's hardwire input 8 because that's the only one that's been deleted. If there were none deleted, it would say no children zone to enroll, right? So I then would go, okay, well, partition 1, I want to change the sensor type. Maybe this is a door window. Give it a name. We'll call it the back door.
Did you want to save that?
I know, man. I know. As I did it, I was like, come on, Joel. There's only 1,000 people watching. All right, and then we can change our group type and then click save. And now it's added back to input 9. Right? It'll pop up on the back on your list. Now it worked its way all the way to the bottom of the list, but next time if I were to exit and come back, it would be in the proper place. Now something I want to point out really quick. Why did it roll back in zone 9, Mark?
Why did it?
Yep.
Because that was the first available zone number in the zone structure.
So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is it enrolled at that area because nothing else had occupied that slot. Okay, if I had enrolled, say, a wireless device up until that point, it would have taken up the first available, and when I re-enrolled the child sensor, it would have re-enrolled at the next available zone. In this case, probably 112. Okay. Oh, I'm sure that has a lot of questions in the background. So I know we are running short on time. I did want to spend a little bit more time on tests because this is a really nice thing to show is how we can make sure everything's working. Mark, explain a little bit about this PowerG RSSI screen because this is new.
Yeah, so you can come in here and test a sensor for the signal strength. If it's getting a poor signal, you can add a PowerG repeater into the system near those faraway sensors, and now those sensors that were getting a poor signal can whisper their signal to the repeater, and they'll have a strong signal to use less power and conserve on battery life for them. Here you can see all of the decibel readouts, the average, the latest. So pretty neat stuff here and very beneficial in large applications to see which sensors are getting poor signals.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this because, you know, look, we got other ways of measuring this in the past, but it would say good, strong, poor. This gives you a really, really, you know, perfect idea of how these devices are actually communicating, what they're, you know, how are they, you know, operating, all that good stuff. It's great to have more. The more information we have, the better, right? The better the system can operate. And then last, we go into application. We can see the version, but check this out too. We've also got this. We go to dark mode. Hey, look at that. Isn't that cool? And then if you are in other areas of the world, English, French, Spanish built in, just come over and flip over. There you go. And then when we're done, just click disconnect and it will disconnect from the panel.
And also in the test area, that's where you'd go to run a cell test, dual path test. So very important to make sure to do that cell test and it's getting a proper signal strength.
And as we're kind of wrapping up here, and I know I said, there is so much to cover. We're barely scratching the surface on what this panel does and how it programs and all of its capabilities. So if you want the 4-hour rendition of this, reach out to your local TAM, schedule a webinar, schedule an in-person training, come and see us at ISC West, right? Get some more information on this, and yeah, the more you know, the better. This is like the NBC thing, right? That's it from me, guys. I'm sure there's some questions. Any questions?
Yeah, Neil, we have anything come through the chat that you guys weren't able to answer or wanted to bring up live?
Oh, yeah, questions. Holy crap. We've been getting buried back here, but Jason, Mark, Kevin, and I are doing our best.
I've got one, Neil, I wanted to throw out there for Joel. Somebody just asked if you can have the ability to hook up any kind of external antennas.
Great question. So yes, on the metal version only, for an LTE. Okay. Oh, you know what? Here, hold on. I'm like Carrot Top. I got props. So the metal version has this. Okay, that's the antenna array there, and it also has the right there are your cellular connections. So we can actually attach our LTE cellular antennas to get them out of a space if we need to, out of a building if we don't have adequate coverage. Power G if you need to relocate it, and roll the Power G host or an RF keypad, right? So we're not stuck with it in the cabinet at that point. Hopefully that answered. What else? We got a couple minutes left. What other questions we got?
I'm trying to catch up. Do the address? Well, I hope I don't stump you. Do the addressable devices? So the addressable devices that have sounder bases, yes, they do all have sounder bases. Is it one sound, all sound?
The addressable base. Neil, I don't have a sounder base, so I don't know. I've never tested it. So if you know, then I would let you answer.
I don't know either. So I will. We'll get back to you on that question, Benjamin. There's been a lot of questions. Hold on. There's been a lot of questions about the data sheets for the MX devices. Great call out. We'll make sure those are all up on dscandclosest.com. It looks like that was just missed. What else? When is pricing live? We're waiting for the new product announcement to go out to distribution any day now. So as soon as that's done, rest assured, our distributors will be pulling it in. What else do we have?
Somebody asked if Z-Wave is built in.
Yeah, Z-Wave is built into the GA panels. The soft launch panels did not have Z-Wave built into them.
All right, what else do we got? Control 4. Yes, we have Control 4. What else have we got here? It is Z-Wave 800, Mark. That was a good question.
Yep. Z-Wave 800.
Outdoor repeaters. We don't make outdoor repeaters currently. It is something that we're looking at. But we do. You can always put them into in like an STI housing and put the repeaters outside. That works fantastic. Oh wow, we're getting killed. Can you add Zigbee? Can we add Zigbee? That's a good question. I'm not even sure. It normally uses slot 2. It might be able to use slot 1. We'll have to get back to you on that one, Jason.
Yeah.
Need to mount
Anything else?
I need to mount the IQ Pro inside an existing metal cabinet. You cannot take IQ Pro outside of its existing cabinet. So if that was the question, so your Z-Wave, if you're using the metal can, would go through the antenna assembly on top. But a lot of questions about other integrations. So yeah, we do have Control 4. For all the other integrations, they are coming. They're not available yet, but all the questions we've been getting regarding other integration partners, we should have the majority there, either on IQ Pro or IQ Pro Plus.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go get a coffee.
Yeah, I don't think you need one. If we didn't get to your question, rest assured we will. We after the webinar ends, we'll download the Q&A, and if there's any questions we didn't get to, we will get back to you. You know, we'll get back to you. Scott, Trevor, Ray, Danny, rest assured, we'll get back to you.
And again, we're going to be posting this to YouTube immediately after. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting it on social media as well. Also, for any of the TSMs that are at some of the distributors that are showing this to multiple dealers and integrators today, please send me your list of the attendees. Vaughn, thank you very much. Sent me the list from Westco up in Kent, Washington. So hello to all you folks. Every one of those people that attended are up for the giveaway to receive a free IQ Pro. So we're going to be doing that drawing soon. I will hold off until everybody sends me those lists. So I'll wait until the end of the day. Probably see something tomorrow, mid-morning or afternoon, which would be a nice way to start a Friday, getting a free IQ Pro to mess around with. Be a good call. But yeah, Joel, thanks so much. Mark, Neil, everybody on the TAM side answering questions today. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a good one.